Hey everyone, I'm Kate from Simple Pin Media. We are a Pinterest management company, and we also teach bloggers and business owners how to manage their Pinterest page with actionable steps that they can put into place without feeling overwhelmed. And today I've invited Alisa Meredith, and she is another Pinterest expert who I met through a Pinterest group. I had asked her a question because I was desperate to find other Pinterest experts who understood my world. And I found her, and I frantically asked her a question, and she couldn't answer it, but referred me to someone else. And that just kind of opened the door for us to be able to talk and communicate about all things Pinterest, which is really valuable when you are a Pinterest manager and you have clients and you really just need someone to bounce ideas off of. So Alisa has just been such a fantastic and helpful resource. And when I heard that she was doing a session for, it was Social Media Examiner Success Summit, right?
Yep.
She was doing it about promoted pins. And I had a client who had come to me and said, I would love for you to manage a campaign for me. And I had only ever tried a promoted pin once, and it fell completely flat. So I knew I wasn't quite equipped to take that on. So I contacted Alisa and said, and I listened to a webinar that she had done, and I just told her, can you tell me what you know so that this just doesn't completely fall flat again? So I was so impressed again with how much she knew that I knew my audience and my readers would really find such value in the things that she knew about promoted pins. So before we dive into that, I would just love for you, Alisa, to tell people a little bit about you, a little bit about how you started on Pinterest, and maybe what you love about Pinterest.
Yeah, I'd love to. And thank you so much for that introduction. I hope we haven't raised expectations too high.
I hope so. You'll need it for sure.
Well, thank you. But I feel the same way. It is so nice to have someone who understands your wins and your loses, your losses. But I hope that what we talked about helps that client on the next campaign. Okay, great. Yeah, love to hear that.
That was so helpful.
Yay. Okay. Well, so I got into online marketing about 100 years ago in 1999. That's what it feels like now.
I know it does.
And then social media in 2010. So I was kind of slow to get there. But then when Pinterest came out, I thought, because I was into the whole HubSpot. I have a HubSpot partner agency. So the focus is on content and inbound. But Pinterest, for some reason, just appealed to me. I think because I liked the way you could use it as a bookmarking service. So if I found articles that I wanted to read, but I couldn't read right this second, I would sort them on Pinterest and keep them for later. And it just intrigued me, could this work for business? So I went about trying to understand it. And I wrote an ebook about it, which is horribly outdated at this point, but that it kind of took off a little bit, and I got my first client. Wasn't even thinking of offering Pinterest as a business service, but since they asked, well, sure, I'll do it. And I was just amazed at what it did for driving traffic and leads to his website. So it's just everything I try with Pinterest kind of has been like, well, I don't know, but yeah. But then by the time promoted pins came out, I was like, well, it hasn't let me down yet. So I'm going to go for it. And like you mentioned, having that social media examiner opportunity was like, well, I guess now I'm going to have to learn how to do this really well.
Yes. A trial by fire, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've just been impressed at everything it can do for my business and so many others.
Okay. That's great. And I think, so we kind of determined like when you first discovered them. So when you first, maybe tell us a little bit about your very first promoted pin campaign. Did you feel overwhelmed, confused, or were you kind of excited? And what type of pin, if you can say, did you promote?
Yeah, just excited. Yeah, so I just wanted to get a little more traffic to my blog, so I promoted a blog post pin. And all my images are already optimized for Pinterest anyway, so I could just kind of pick one that I thought would work. Of course, on Pinterest content does the really, really well, so I chose something that had to do with Pinterest. But no, it's such an easy process. You just walk through it. It walks you right through. And then I've never been afraid to fail at anything marketing. And it's the same thing with Pinterest promoted pins. You don't have to invest a lot of money to see if it's going to work or not. You also don't have to be too afraid of getting rejected, because my pins have been rejected many times, and I learned more in the process. And a lot of that was before I had to kind of learn the rules. But don't be afraid to have your pin rejected. It's not a big deal. You just try again. Okay.
So let's start at the top of promoted pins and walk through what that process is, especially for those who have never done it before. Let's kind of take each component, and if you can just weave us through how it works.
Okay.
And what you do to make sure that you're choosing the best possible option at each turn.
Sure. So there is a brand new feature out that it just came out this week, where you can do a bulk upload of pins. Okay. So before now, it had to be something you had already pinned, but now you can actually create new pins and upload those. So that I think is going to be really, really useful.
Now, before we continue, really quick, I do know that I have heard that you want to use a pin that has a lot of repins on it. So with this new option to bulk upload, do you think that will still remain true if those pins are kind of what we refer to as cold, if you will?
Yeah, because I think that the point of finding something that has been repinned a lot is not so much a strategy to get it to work better in promoted pins. Rather, it's an indication that image and that subject matter is doing well on Pinterest. So it's probably worth promoting. So if you use a similar image and a similar pin description, even if you upload it right now for the first time as a promoted pin, that's still going to be valuable.
Okay, good point. All righty.
Okay, now that aside, we'll go through it the way most people are probably going to do it the first time, which is simpler and I think a good way to learn the process. So when you go to bulk upload, you'll understand what all the terminology means. So most people in the US, and it's only available in the US right now, most people in the US are already approved. But if you're not, you can apply. Excuse me. And then you just go to promoted pins. And it will ask you to choose your objective. So most pinners are going to have two different options right now. They're going to be able to choose from an engagement campaign or a traffic campaign. So engagement campaign would be paying for likes and paying for close-ups and clicks.
Okay.
And those are going to be about half the price of the other option, which is traffic pins, where you only pay for clicks through to your website.
Okay.
Have you run a lot of engagement?
I haven't run engagement. I've only run traffic pins.
Yeah.
Have you seen that the engagement ones still do bring a good amount of traffic, or no?
No. I've tried them several times. When they first came out, I thought, why on earth would anyone pay for engagement when your traffic campaign is going to generate a ton of engagement for free, plus you get the clicks?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I thought, well, all right, well, maybe there's a reason I'm not thinking of. Maybe you're going to get a ton of repins. That'd be great. I don't mind paying for repins. Right. Maybe you're going to get a whole lot of new followers, because when someone does a close-up on a pin, which means they just click on the pin, it enlarges on the screen, and they can see it full size. Next to that is going to be the board that it came from, and a really easy way for people to follow you. So I thought, well, maybe it would increase my followers. Well, and that didn't happen. So what I ended up paying for was almost exclusively close-ups. And those have no value for me.
Right.
So I wouldn't mind paying for repins if it was like 7 cents a repin, but that just isn't how it worked out.
Okay. Got it.
So I've tried it a couple different times. Really, I was like, I really want to crack this and make it work. But
you want to believe.
I do want to believe because it's Pinterest. But I think it's probably best just for people who want to be seen. So, it's going to have a gazillion impressions, which those you don't even pay for.
Mm-hmm.
So if impressions and awareness is where you're going, then they may be a good option for you.
Would that be a good option for somebody who's just starting out on Pinterest to try to get just the exposure, or somebody who maybe they've, had a Pinterest account for a long time but hasn't used it for a year or so?
Yeah, I mean, it's still, to me, where is the value in that? To me, it is more valuable for a big company with a lot of money to spend just to kind of boost their awareness with a good budget for engagement. But even like for a little guy, I'm not sure I would do that, because they are going to end up spending money on those close-ups, and that's where their budget's going to get eaten up. But I don't think it's that great.
Okay. So we'll stick with traffic. Okay. Traffic campaigns are best.
Yeah, I think so. So when you're in that mode, you're going to set your daily budget, and you're going to set your beginning date and optional end date. And then you go on to choosing the pin that you want to promote. So,
is there an importance in the date or in the days that you're choosing? Could there be more interaction on the weekends as opposed to the weekdays?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have found that the weekends are more effective for them. I prefer to just let mine go.
Okay. So you choose like a pretty wide range of time?
Yeah, I mean, and if you're just starting out, you have a real limited budget, maybe you only do it for a week.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, so then you've chosen your pin, and in this situation, it's going to be something you already pinned. So you're going to see your whole stream of all the millions of pins you've pinned. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for your own content, there are few use cases for promoting someone else's content. So you can actually search in a little keyword search bar just for your URL, so you can just see the pins that go to your content. Might save you some time. And then you're gonna name your pin and set up your targeting. So that's what people always want to know. Okay, how can you target? Is it like Facebook ads? Well, no. Yeah. It's not. Something else interesting that happened this week is that the rules for Pinterest promoted pins mentions now something that they're calling hashed lists. And I was like, what in the world is that? Well, basically what it is like uploading a custom audience to Facebook ads, only on Pinterest. Now, that option is not available yet, but it mentions them in the rules, which makes me think that they're coming any second now.
Right. Okay.
So I'm really excited about that.
Got it. Yeah, I saw you mention that yesterday in the group, and I thought, you're such a little sleuth trying to figure out when they're going to do it. I love it.
Well, I figure it wasn't in the rules last month. Now it is. They must be plotting something. So, I'm going to be all over that. That kind of targeting is really powerful, because what they have now is pretty basic. So the biggest thing you're going to target by is keywords.
Okay.
Everybody knows about that.
Is there a way that you do research for keywords, or how do you think about it when you approach it?
Yeah, so I start out with what comes to mind, so what makes logical sense to me, but then I go into Pinterest guided search. So I'll start with what seems logical to me, and the example I use on a summit was it's like a cucumber salad recipe. So let's say you had a blog post for that and you wanted to drive people there. Well, obviously, it would make sense to start with keyword cucumber salad recipes. But then guided search is going to help you expand that. So when you type that in, you get those little boxes underneath that, like, for that example, I got creamy, vinegar, healthy, garden, sour cream, all kinds of words that could help me expand to reach people who might be interested in this recipe, even though it wasn't completely obvious to me at the time. And when I showed this to somebody, they're like, yeah, but why would you put sour cream in there? That seems like kind of a irrelevant keyword. But it really isn't if you think about the way that Pinterest users use Pinterest.
Yeah.
So we're using it for inspiration. So it doesn't have to necessarily be as obvious as you might think. And Pinterest encourages us to use the really narrow keywords, but also to branch out to reach more people. Obviously, they want to make more money, but they also want people to find our content. So even though they won't allow completely irrelevant keywords, they are pretty forgiving and letting you be creative with them.
Yeah, I was noticing that when I did one of my promoted pins campaign, there was, we were promoting coloring books for adults.
Oh, I love that.
And what I did was I went, and because I knew people were using it for calming or therapy and all of these things. So I really just tried to kind of branch up that circle just a little bit wider to see how, you know, people would interact with it. And it ended up being the most successful pin promoted in that campaign of 5.
That's wonderful.
So how many keywords should you choose?
They say at least 10 to 15, but the more the better.
So do you know if there's a limit, like 200, or I mean, would too many hurt you?
I think too many could get you could cause you to spend money on people who weren't really interested.
Right. Okay.
But I would start broad, and then if you see that certain ones aren't really converting well, you can get rid of them if you want to.
Okay.
I haven't come up against any limits yet, and just to reiterate that search, that guided search. So for you with the adult coloring books, the little cards that come up when you search that are things that people are actually searching related to the term you entered. So Pinterest isn't just making up random keywords for you. It's actually things they know people are searching for. So it's definitely worth building into your promoted pin.
Yes, it's a really important point too for people as they're even using Pinterest to name like word titles and descriptions. To use those words as well, because those really are keys to know, like you said, what people are actually already looking for.
Yeah.
And before we go on, I'll just say for anybody asking questions, we're going to answer all the questions at the end. So keep them and know that we see them and we haven't forgotten about you. So anyway, back to keywords and what's next after keywords? After
keywords, you can target by area. So obviously just limited to the U.S., but there are, well, last time I looked anyway, 210 different metropolitan areas that you can target.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can target by language.
Okay.
Many different languages. And then, to me, one of the most important ones that might not be given a lot of thought is to target by device.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we've had this conversation, right?
I loved it when you were, talking about the webinar that was leading up to the Social Media Success Summit. You had said that, and I was like, oh, no way. Like, I had no idea that, there was all these different things in it. So I'll let you expand on that. I won't ruin the fun.
Well, I have to give Vincent Ng some credit for this too, because he had done some testing and noticed that the price you pay for traffic or engagement, whatever you're trying to get, can vary widely depending on what device you're targeting. So now I always target separately, because I think desktop was most expensive, tablet was least, and mobile in the middle. I think for me, but it was totally different for him. So
yeah,
it's worth testing.
I think it's different based on topic. That's what I noticed, is that depending on the topic, it would switch, and some that were usually more expensive on another pin would be a little bit less expensive than like an iPhone or something like that. Yeah,
and the other thing that's cool about that is if you're using a conversion pixel and you're tracking a sale or you're tracking a lead, if you know that people coming in on mobile are not converting, then you're going to shut that off.
Right.
Or starting, backwards, if you know that your website doesn't perform well on mobile at all, you're probably not going to promote mobile users to go to that content.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And what I noticed that when you choose your device, they give you a price option. So how do you know which price to choose?
It depends on your budget and, and how much you want to show up. So yeah, they do give you a range of people bidding, people like doing similar ads are bidding in this range. If you can try something lower and it will tell you it's low, they'll let you do it, but you're not going to get the impressions that you need to see it succeed. So I usually do try to stay in that range they give you. And I would check on it, because you you could get outbid tomorrow and find that your bid needs to be raised.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And they, once you do start your promoted pin campaign, just so people know, they will send you updates to your email or to your client's email that hopefully they'll forward to you. But it'll tell you kind of how it's doing if you don't think to check on it right away.
Yeah.
And will your, what happens with budgets? So let's say you set your device, you choose your device, you set your cost, you have your budget. Does that run all day? Does it stop? Or how does that work?
Well, you've set your daily budget at the campaign level.
Right.
So once that daily budget is reached, it's going to stop. Okay. And I've gotten emails that have said, we've run out of budget for the day. You might want to increase it because they've stopped showing.
And have you, I increased it on one. Have you tested a couple with the increase, and have you noticed that has given it another boost?
I haven't, only because it was like, nope, that's what I want to spend for the day.
Right, true.
You can start over
within your budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I did it. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that what I love about promoted pins is I'm a major bargain hunter, and I love that 30% you get for free. So if you're doing promoted pins well, when you pay for 100 clicks to your website, you can pretty much count on getting 30 more for free. So when someone repins your pin and people click on that, you don't pay for that. So if you've done it well and you're getting a lot of repins and people are resonating with it, you're going to get a lot of traffic for free, and it will keep going. It's not something that disappears when you're done with the promoted pin.
Right, which I think is one of the greatest advantages that Pinterest has over like Facebook advertising is you don't get this drop off. You actually get this really great residual effect that can go on for a year or two. It'll go on for quite a long time, and it will help pull it up in search. And it's, I would say, and I'm sure you would agree with this, that it is really a good place to spend your ad dollars if you have them. And I know a lot of people, when Pinterest became, a pay-to-play platform, kind of, people were kind of moaning and groaning. But I will say, to their credit, they've done a really good job setting up this platform to where it is advantageous for the person who's purchasing the promoted pin.
Yeah, and not only that, I think they've done well so far preserving the user experience. So the rules are fairly strict. They don't want them to look like ads. So as a result, your promoted pins tend to get 2 to 5% higher engagement than even organic. Whereas on Facebook, or we talk about Google AdWords, it's completely backwards, right?
True.
Yeah. So they're really helping us out. They're helping the users out by keeping it pretty and useful.
Absolutely. I really like that part of it. Are there any type of pins that like you just said, they look like an ad, but ones that are just going to get rejected right away, or that Pinterest has said, these don't fly? Yeah.
So it's a lot of the typical stuff that you would expect. So like no adult content, no alcoholic beverages. You can't have a direct call to action or anything that looks like a button that you click on it. So they don't want it to look like an ad. Okay. Let me get to some of these others. I wrote them down because I always forgetting.
And are there
the details.
Oh, go ahead.
There are a ton of others. Like, you can't use more than one hashtag in your description. Okay. Which, stop using hashtags on Pinterest anyway.
Yes, I agree. I feel like that should be a pin. And it should be like big, bold, red letters. Stop using hashtags on Pinterest. Yes.
Yeah, and what's interesting is it wasn't until promoted pins came out and their rules became public that we knew why. So Pinterest will tell you, okay, you can use one hashtag in your promoted pin, and they recommend that it be branded to you, because hashtags don't work the way you think they're going to work. They confuse people. They take people away from your content. So we always we've wondered before, is it really good practice? But then when promoted pin came out and they explained we were like, okay, done with the hashtags.
Yeah, absolutely. And you still see lingering pins with like, they're probably 2 years old and they have this block of hashtags, and I just remove them.
Yeah, me too.
Swap them out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can't use a price in the image that you're promoting. You can now, and they just changed this. You can put the price in the description, but I would caution against that. Instead, I would use rich pins, which will put in the price automatically and then update it if it changes on your site. Because like we talked about, your pins will be out there for years. Mm-hmm. So why would you put something that changeable in your description? And because it's going to get repinned. It's not like you can just change yours and it will change everywhere.
Right. And I think we do have a question real quick about the hashtags. It says, what about hashtags for campaigns so people can take your stuff for your campaign?
So people can what?
Tag stuff for your campaign so you can analyze.
Yes. And Pinterest does say, if you're going to use one, make it branded. So if you use one for your campaign or you use one for your brand, that's completely different. That's for your use, and it's not you trying to spread your message, because it's just not going to work.
It's not like hashtag recipe.
Yeah, right.
Which is just not going to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So then they hate bad grammar, bad spelling, overuse of punctuation. There's also a new one that got added this week that is kind of interesting because it's not even possible right now, but it got me kind of excited. So they talked about targeting sensitive categories. Like, what does that mean? Okay, so like on Facebook, if you ever try to run an ad for like a wellness or healthcare company, that you can't imply by your messaging that anyone seeing it might have any kind of health problem. So you can't say, hey, do you need to lose 20 pounds? Right?
Okay, got it.
So Pinterest is saying something similar. And my thought was, well, how could you don't want to say that in your copy, but it also mentioned targeting those people. So more targeting options are coming based on interest, and they've been teasing about that, but now that's in the rules too. So that's going to be coming more.
Okay, got it. Yeah. And I had tried one last week for a friend of mine to see how it would do. And I noticed that hers got rejected, but we think it's because there were a ton of ads. They were to add text links, not images. Mm-hmm. But I know there's rules about that too, that when they get to the landing page, there can't be 5 or more ads above the fold.
Yeah, I thought it was 3, but basically, too many ads above the fold on your landing page. No good.
Which I can appreciate that, because I'm imagining that, you get spammers that would come in and just try to jam pack a page with ads.
Yes.
And spend a ton of money to promote the pin. And then you just get these clicks and make money.
Yeah, exactly. And they've backed off on disallowing hard walls. So it used to be you couldn't promote a pin that went just to a landing page.
Okay.
But you can now, as long as you mention in the description something like click here to sign up. Or as long as you let people know in advance that they're heading to somewhere they're going to have to supply their information, that's allowed.
Okay. So thinking about that practically, if somebody was going to try to promote their email list with an opt-in freebie, they would want to make sure in the description that they said something about like free ebook or something like that.
Yes, free ebook. Click here to sign up to get it. So they know that they're not going to get it just by clicking. They know that there's a step in between.
Okay.
Which I think is really, really for our benefit, because I have found it a little bit difficult to use promoted pins to generate leads. Okay. People on Pinterest, they've just found you for the very first time. Mm-hmm. They go right to a landing page and like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what to give you my email address. But if you make it clear in the description, they're not going to click, or they're going to click already knowing that something's going to be asked of them, and they're probably more okay with it.
Right. I agree. Users are smart. And we're smart. We can pick up on things a mile away. So why not just be full disclosure, tell them what's going on. And most people will be thrilled with that. They'll be fine with it instead of being kind of tricked, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also keep in mind that if you're going to have an opt-in on that page, keep it as simple as possible. So don't ask them 50 questions to get the ebook. If you can deal with just taking their email address, then do that, because you're going to get a lot better opt-in rate.
Okay. And one question that somebody had asked just a little bit a ways ago, which was important, was, can you promote a buyable pin?
No,
Okay.
they're not compatible right now. I would be surprised if in the future you couldn't. I'm guessing it's a technical limitation, because it seems like it would be a fabulous opportunity for sellers and Pinterest alike to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I figure, if they're going to roll something out, slowly but surely, they've got to make sure that they get it right before they open up new things and new things.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you did have a product on your site that you wanted to promote, would you kind of apply those same rules that you would for the opt-in page? Really being full disclosure, but being useful and helpful at the same time, because we know that's what Pinterest users like, is useful and helpful.
Well, I think it depends on what it is. So if you're selling jewelry and you're showing a picture of the jewelry, I don't think you need to spell out, go here to order. And in fact, you're not really allowed to make that kind of blatant call to action as far as selling a product like that. So be more creative. So, think like, remember, do you ever watch Seinfeld with the J.P. Peterman? Was it the Peterman catalog or whatever?
Catalog.
Yeah. So I think of it like, get really flowery and descriptive and kind of be a little inspirational and help people like sell the lifestyle of the product.
Absolutely.
Because people know if they're clicking on a product of a picture of a bracelet, they're doing that because they might want to buy that bracelet, and they might not even buy it right now, but they might repin it and buy it later. But yeah, I don't think you have to be so obvious, and you definitely can't put on the image, click here to buy now.
Yes.
But that's what people are going to do if they click. That's why they're clicking.
True. I also think too that a good resource would be, Pinterest has a ton of case studies about their promoted pin campaigns with bigger companies. That's a great place to start, and even just look through your feed, because you'll come across promoted pins. And I find it really fascinating when I come across a promoted pin that I don't know right away that it's a promoted pin. So they've done a really good job at blending in well. Instead of, obviously Target and Ziploc can't really fly under the radar because you do recognize them so quickly and right away. But I think that's a good, if you're not good at images, I would say if you're going to do a promoted pin, go ahead and hire someone to make a great image for you and invest in it to see how it does, because
absolutely,
it's always worth a shot,
And try a couple of different images for the same product. So I've seen some that I think are really smart where they combine things. So I saw one that was promoted where it was a whole outfit. It wasn't on a human, which that would have worked too. I would test both, but this was just like the dress and all the accessories and the shoes all around it. And I would want that pin to go right to a sales page where you could add all those items right to your cart without having to go to different pages. Or you could just add one of them, because, if you just have a picture of the dress and people don't like the dress, nothing's going to happen. But if you have a picture of the dress and the shoes and someone likes the shoes but not the dress, they might just go buy the shoes. So giving people more to look at in your pin up to a certain point, is going to really expand your reach and your potential for sales.
And I think that maximizes on what Pinterest added last week with the visual search tool. If you have more of those things, people are going to look for it. I have a video that I recorded of me trying to use the visual search tool as a user, and it'll go up on Friday. But I loved it because I took this pair of boots that I found on an image, and I, as a user, we find something and we try to find it. And this pin that I clicked on, it went through to the site and it was out of stock. So I was really able to really dig deep and try to figure out what the brand was and how I could buy it. And I thought that was so fascinating because, like you said, a promoted pin, even if, let's say, the product is out of stock or something like that, they could still click on any one of those images within your promoted pin and try to find more of it, which, I love that tool. It's like
Me
my favorite.
Yeah, I tried that on an image, a blog image I had of like a rock and roll star with a guitar, and I just zoomed in on the guitar, and I could not believe, not only did it pick up just guitar images, which said to me, you need to be posting product images along with lifestyle images, but it also picked up similar backgrounds behind the guitars, and I was like, oh, it kind of blew my mind how accurate it was.
And it brought up keywords at the top right above it.
Yes.
Which I thought was really cool too. Again, those keywords. I know a lot of people are trying to use Google, keyword planner, which can be helpful, but Pinterest really has it built in. If you're paying attention, it's all right there. You don't have to really search very hard. I mean, I use that search box all the time to put in what I want my words to be.
And you can use it for content planning and everything.
I know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So awesome. Okay, I digress. So if I'm a new promoted pins user, what are maybe one or two tips that you would give them to try to reduce kind of that first timer stress of doing a promoted pin?
Well, just do one. So, so nothing will explode if you do it wrong. Set your budget for $5 a day.
And they're not going to drain your entire bank account.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They're not going to kick you out. It's going to be okay. So find a pin to help you feel a little more comfortable. Find a pin that's already working and promote that one. I mean, you can get a lot more strategic thinking about content that converts well to sales, content that converts well to leads, and promote that. But what you said about, even if you're not good with images, hire someone to make one for you is going to save you so much money in the long run. Yeah. So, and it doesn't cost that much. So
no, it doesn't.
Just get it done. Because then, I mean, if you promote a crummy image, then you won't know if it's going to work or not.
Exactly. Yeah. And I did aim to kind of shoot for one that had maybe like 75 or more repins just to be safe.
Well, that's a great idea because you're going to maximize. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. What constitutes a successful pin might be 20 or it might be 2,000. But when you choose something that's already been shown to get repins, you're going to, if you use a traffic pin, then you're going to get even more of a bonus because you're going to get all those free repins.
Right. That's true. Any last words about promoted pins? Although I feel like you've exhausted all options, but who knows?
Let's see. I think, don't forget the fact that Pinterest is about inspiration, about being a better person in whatever aspect of life. And if you have something that is a how-to, a do-it-yourself, and you can lay that out. So you mentioned that the case studies before, and one of them was, it's a Wells Fargo, a project under Wells Fargo. It's a company that helps, I think, mainly students with moving and expenses and all that. Well, they had this promoted pin that was, it was ugly. I can't think of a nicer way to say it.
That's okay. That's just cut to the chase.
Yeah, it was ugly, but it was useful. So they had 3 tips for moving on a budget, and they put them right there in the image. So people knew by looking at it that this person gets me, they know it's important to me, and they're interested in providing useful content. And that was an extremely successful campaign for Wells Fargo that got them a ton of traffic and brand awareness. So I think be useful. Be beautiful if you can, but be useful first.
I would agree. Pinterest is a place where we discovered why didn't I think of that, phrase, because we saw in the beginning, especially, there was just this huge boom of things that you kind of open the world. Like somebody would use a clothespin for something and you'd be like, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Right. And so there are still thousands and hundreds of more ideas that are those, why didn't I think of that? And I think each person or each brand or each blogger has those moments of, inspiration, especially if they know their tribe really well. then they can easily tap into that and say, I know what these people want, and that's what I'm going to give them. And even I would encourage people, if you have a follower base, on Pinterest that's like 100 followers, that's fine. It's still 100 followers that have followed you for a reason. Yeah. So I just would encourage people, like, even if you have 100 followers, still test a promoted pin with one of your useful, great ideas, because you just never know how many 50 more people you could bring into your tribe that really care about what you're talking about.
Absolutely agree.
So where can people find you and find more? I do know, before you jump in, I'm going to cut you off, that you have a promoted pins board on your Pinterest page.
I do.
Which is super helpful.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, it's Alisa M Meredith. So that's the same on Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram. And my website is alisameredith.com. And tomorrow I'm going to release a little blab I did with BuzzSumo about the whole Twitter API count issue. Okay. I mean, yeah, sometimes I get sidetracked on Pinterest, but
hey, that's okay. You've got kind of a broader reach of social media than I do, which is good. Sometimes I'll be like, Twitter, how do you use Twitter?
What's that again?
I know. I'm so confused. Someone will be like, did you post that on Twitter? I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, is that
but okay.
Thing? Yeah, I know.
It
just draws us in and only sometimes lets me up for air, but it's my favorite.
Right. Okay, well, I just want, I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but what I'm going to do now is we're just going to wrap this up, and then we can save some time after we're done recording, just answering some questions. So thanks, everyone, for watching along with Promoted Pins. Again, if you have any more questions, you can find Alisa on Facebook, too. I've linked to her on the Simple Pin Facebook page, and follow simplepinmedia.com. We have a ton of great resources for you there, and I just started blogging a little bit ago, so this blog will also be featured over there in the coming weeks that have as a continued resource. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching and following along.